Thanks for being here. I'm Senator Pat Gallivan. I'm very pleased to be joined by Assemblyman Mickey Kearns. We both are from Western New York. We represent, among other places, West Seneca, and in particular, the West Seneca Children's Psychiatric Center is located within our district. And we are very troubled by the governor's plan to close the Western New York Children's Psychiatric Center and merge it with the Buffalo Psych Center. The Buffalo Psychiatric Center does wonderful things for adults, but it's an institution, it's a campus where adults with mental health issues are treated, and there's no place for children. Many of you know my background. I'm involved in criminal justice matters, and while we're talking about raising the age of criminal responsibility and removing 16 and 17-year-olds from adult correctional facilities and having their own place, at the same time, we have a policy initiative to put the most troubled of kids that are victimized from age 4 up to 18, to take them from this bucolic, wonderful setting and moving them to an institutional setting where they're housed on the same campus as adults. Research in the 60s showed that it would be much better to treat kids in their own private setting. That was the reason to move the kids from the Buffalo Psych Center to their own campus in West Seneca. Since that time, the West Seneca Children's Psychiatric Center has received over 99% on its reaccreditation rates. Its performance as far as reinstitutionalization rates, length of stay, is the best in the state for children, among the best in the country. And rather than taking these kids and moving them to a co-located campus and reducing the results, because there's no clinical reason whatsoever that OMH can tell us that there's a reason for this move, rather than using the Children's Psych Center as a model, we're taking a step backwards, and it's very, very troubling. We've worked very hard over the past few years. We've had 3 one-year reprieves, but now it looks like the state is going forward, and I think it's wrong, and I certainly am going to do everything in my power to stop it. Beyond being wrong and not right for the children, it is not safe for the kids in our estimation. And I would ask the Assemblyman to offer his comments on that, and whatever you think is important.
Sure.
Nick.
Thank you, Senator Galvin. As the Senator stated, it has been a few years since we've been working on this. The Western New York Children's Psychiatric Campus is on a campus of about 435 acres. The Western New York Children's Psychiatric Center is about 75 of those acres. But we've been reaching out to the various agencies to come up with a plan and a vision for that property. I recently reached out to my district, Senator Galvin's district in West Seneca. I sent them a survey. We've had over 2,100 people respond that they're in support of keeping the WNYCPC in West Seneca. But what also concerns me is, and we've been talking to the commissioner about this, and I'm so concerned, I drafted a formal letter today asking for a formal investigation. Over the weekend, the Buffalo News reported a nurse was knocked unconscious by a patient. All we know is what we read in the news. I drafted that letter. That went out this morning to the commissioner. It was faxed, and it will go in the mail, and that letter can be provided. In addition to that, at hearings, we did ask the commissioner the safety of the children. Last year, in April of 2016, a 14-year-old girl was approached by a gentleman from the Buffalo Psychiatric Center, and she was brutally attacked, near death. She was saved by a passerby and a postman who happened to be just in the neighborhood. This is a very serious situation. We recently found data that they're averaging about 1 leave a week of patients leaving the site without authorization, and they're in the neighborhood. And finally, at the hearings, we know that there are sex offenders on the property. All this together, it does not make sense to commingle our youth as young as 4 years old. We've had complete support from the Western New York delegation. To me, this is our final. We've had 3 side letters. We need a final reaction. The children have said to us that they don't want to be in an institutional setting. They don't want to be commingled with adults. And when they see the adults, they get depressed. As Pat stated, that facility has the lowest reinstitutional rate than any other facility in the state, a top 10 rated hospital. Why are we trying to fix something that's not broken? I personally spoke to Governor Cuomo. at the matching at a meeting and conveyed to him the importance of this. We repeatedly invited him to West Seneca to personally see the facility, and we have not heard back. So he did say he would take this under consideration, but this is it. This is our last-ditch effort. The state has been bad neighbors to West Seneca. They have not been good neighbors. They have left all these buildings vacant and abandoned when the DDSO has been moved and the children have been integrated into society. So once again, we're just here to make our final plea to the governor. The Senate and the Assembly put in their one-house budget bills language that would save this facility, and we're hopeful today that it can be done.
And one last point, I did want to emphasize, well, 2 points. I did want to emphasize that both the Senate and Assembly One House advances language to keep it as a standalone facility, and we have both spoken with our respective leaders, and we know that, at least in our discussions between the Senate and the Assembly, that issue is alive. The other point, this has been going on several years. 3 or 4 years ago, the state had a plan to close numerous psychiatric centers across the state. They have kept all of them open. This is the only one that they're looking to close. Since that time, we have met with family members, former patients, other mental health professionals, mental health professional organizations, community members, all the legislators in Western New York, and legislators who represent the 19 different counties that this facility serves. Everybody is in support of keeping it open. The only one that is advancing this plan to close it is OMH. Nobody outside of OMH has spoken in favor of it. We have asked time and time again, informally and formally at different hearings, for the commissioner of OMH to present us with data and studies to show why this move is necessary and how it'll result in better treatment for these kids. We'll take questions. I'd be happy to talk about Raise the Age, but can we finish up with Children's Psych Center?
Is there a timetable for the closure?
Well, the reason right now that we believe that this is urgent is late last year an RFP went out to do the renovations on the Buffalo Psychiatric Center campus. And once that starts and money is spent towards this, we fear that it is over with. So if the RFP goes forward, they'll start construction sometime likely in the spring or early summer, and they anticipate a 1.5-year construction cycle. But we think the urgency is now, and a decision has to be made now in order for us to save it.
So what's the alternative plan in terms of dealing with the adolescent population there? Do you have an alternative plan?
Well, the state's plan is there's 46 beds right now. The state's plan ultimately is once the Children's Psychiatric Center is closed, children that are admitted would be treated on the campus of the Buffalo Psychiatric Center, which we do not believe is a good alternative.
And so how many kids are in that group? That would be
Well, it's the capacity is 46, and their population at any given time hovers around 40. Now, depending, and keep in mind, these are kids that come in, they're treated, most times successfully, and then they're cycled out after a period of several months. And so it's a different population and different groups of family, but it holds constant in and around 40 children and families at any one time.
So that's classified as a non-secure facility, or because there are secure psychiatric facilities. Is that a non-secure?
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer to that, but it is in a park-like setting. One thing that the commissioner has stated, that there's parks around the Buffalo Psychiatric Center. But one of the things back in the 70s when they separated, and you talk to the experts, they need that separation, that park-like rural setting that West Seneca is in. So the children have access to walk around with the family members. Many of the family members are very, very supportive. And the community, over 2,100 people have responded in support of keeping this facility in West Seneca. We cannot get the commissioner to come out, and I think she has not answered the questions. We have some very serious questions when a nurse who's a trained professional is knocked out by a patient, and this is the same building that we're going to put 4-year-olds in. To me, I have a problem with that, and I question their judgment.
And let me go back to the issue of raise the age. So we know that 16 and 17-year-olds nationwide the Supreme Court has said it's unconstitutional for them to be sentenced to death. And they cite some of these same studies that say that they are different and they should be separate from adults. So you saw the governor's executive order last year to separate 16 and 17-year-olds from 18-year-olds in state correctional facilities, not just by sight and sound in a different area of the building or on a different floor, their own facility. It's that same research it's some of that same research that led the state back in the 60s and 70s to remove the kids who needed help from the Buffalo Psychiatric Center campus to move out to this other campus all by itself. In Erie County, in the town of Amarillo, about a week and a half ago, a 17-year-old beat a 2-year-old to death while he was babysitting him. Now think of this. That 17-year-old, if and when convicted, if he's convicted at age 17, will go under the governor's proposal, raise the age to a correctional facility that's built separately for 16 and 17-year-olds. That 2-year-old who's severely beaten, and sometimes you have 2-year-olds like that are beaten and traumatized in other ways. Those are the victims that ultimately oftentimes are treated at the Western New York Children's Psychiatric Center. And now we're going to take that victim, or a victim like that, and send him to an institution. He's going to be on 3 or 4 floors with other kids, of course, and on the other floors in the building, there'll be adults. When he goes out for recreation, he'll be surrounded by a 12-foot fence. When they look out the window, they're going to see adult mental health patients. And among the things that has been articulated to us is one of the best things that these kids have out in West Seneca is hope. And they're going to look out and say, and they're going to lose that hope. Patients have articulated that to us. They look out and say, am I going to spend a lifetime doing this? It's simply wrong. It is just out and out wrong. And we're doing everything we can to stop it, and I hope the governor follows.